not with some profound new message from the gospel story, but with a question. It's easy to come to Mary and Martha and identify with one or the other. So either paint Martha as the responsible one and Mary the lazy one getting away with it, or Martha as the warrior who needs to chill out, and Mary is the faithful one who has her priorities straight. But what if it's not so simple? What if the point of the story isn't about who is doing what, but how they're doing it? We see in our Old Testament reading that Abraham was aware he was in the presence of the divine, and from there it was all hands on deck. He doesn't just walk, he runs to get a calf for slaughter. Of course, the servant is tasked with preparing it. He tells Sarah to use the good flour to make cakes or bread for them. He serves from his best and attends to the men as a gracious host. He's not unlike Martha, fulfilling the duties of hospitality with great fervor. The main difference is that here everyone is doing as expected. The domestic chores have been divided and all of the work is getting done. Martha is doing the same as Abraham. She's welcoming Jesus with a hospitality befitting the culture, both in general and as well as his specific role as rabbi. I don't read any correction in Jesus' words about setting herself to these tasks. The correction really comes when she insisted that Mary do the same. I think the key problem here is that she lost sight of Jesus in that moment. Just like Peter, who had faith to walk on water until he paid attention to the waves around him, Martha has begun to drown in her responsibilities, sinking under the task list. And so I wonder, what are we drowning in? We live in an age when it's not just tasks, but entertainment, news, and various other distractions threaten to consume us. It's nonstop. It's right for us to fulfill our obligations to our families, our jobs, our ministries, etc. But it's tempting to make those the thing instead of Christ. I was speaking with a lovely Christian woman recently who is afraid of living confined to her bed, worried that God may not answer her prayer for strength in her legs. It's a legitimate concern. It's a profound one. It's devastating to lose one's autonomy. I found myself saying gently to her, our hope is not in an outcome, but in a person. I don't think she loved the statement in the moment, and maybe you don't either. It certainly wasn't made without compassion. I believe it was spirit-led. She was looking at the storm around her and drowning in it. And of course I prayed for strength in her legs, but I also prayed for strength of spirit, and for her relationship with Christ to flourish no matter what she faces, now or in the future. Likely most here are aware of the book, The Practice of the Presence of God. It's a collection of letters by the French monk we know by the name of Brother Lawrence. He lived from 1610 to 1691, and he spent the last 40 years of his life in a monastery in Paris. Probably a different Paris than what we experience today. As a young man, he fought in the 30 Years' War and was severely injured in his sciatic nerve. This left him with a severe limp and a great deal of pain for the rest of his life. Now, the first part of the book records a series of conversations between him and the representative of the local archbishop. And one story stands out to me, and it's probably because I have dear friends with mobility limitations, but I think it's relevant to us all when we consider our own limitations. He said he had been lately sent into Burgundy to buy the provision of wine for the community. This was a very unwelcome task for him because he had no turn for business and because he was lame and could not go about the boat, but by rolling himself over the casks. Picture that. Yet he gave himself no uneasiness about it, nor about his purchase of the wine. He said to God, it was his business he was about, and that afterwards he found it very well performed. I don't know, I don't have my sea legs, and if I had a severe limp, I don't know if I could go about it with that kind of spirit, but he had dedicated himself so solely to God. I found it very well performed. stated it was necessary to deny oneself. We talked about having to deny himself for many years. He was clear that our sanctification does not depend on changing our works. Instead, it depended on doing that for God's sake, which we commonly do for our own. Let me repeat that. It depended on doing that for God's sake, which we commonly do for our own. My brother Lawrence was assigned to the kitchen of the monastery. It wasn't something he asked for or desired. He talks about having a great aversion to it. Yet he found a way to do it calmly, even in the chaos of preparing food for what grew to be 100 men. He said this: "The time of busyness does not, with me, differ from the time of prayer. In the noise and clutter of my kitchen, while several persons at the same time calling for different things, I possess God and His great tranquility as if I were upon my knees at the Blessed Supper." That's incredible. If you've ever tried to prepare food in a busy kitchen, just to hear yourself is one thing, but then to hear God is a whole other. Now keep in mind, this didn't happen all at once. It took a number of years of him practicing self-denial, self-discipline, and learning to confess often and turn everything over to God. He learned to engage in what he calls holy inactivity when not busy with his duties. This is one of the reasons I believe Sabbath is so important. The Jewish understanding of Sabbath goes much deeper than rest or relaxation. It's a total stop to all creative work. Because God stopped creating, right, and rested on the seventh day. Now, for those who are strictly observant, this includes honoring the ancient tradition of not starting a fire on the Sabbath in such ways as not driving a car and not turning on a light. So you can leave a light on if it's already on, but you can't turn one on. You can't use any electronic devices, and some of that, there's a few reasons for that, and some argue about which the reason is, because all good Jews will argue back and forth, and it's a vital part of their faith. But essentially, one of the issues with cell phone is you can't be writing something on the Sabbath. So there's a tendency to want to text. So you set that aside. A tendency to want to email. You set that aside. In fact, there was kind of a recent discussion about whether you could even do that if you're serving in war. One person writes, "Absent life-threatening danger, even intelligence operatives in the Army must avoid texting on Sabbath." When's the last time you took an entire 24 hours to cease using a computer, TV, cell phone, oven? Oh yeah, I've seen microwave. Knitting, crocheting. She's working in the yard. Now, how about not just one of those, but all of them together? Keep in mind that those keeping the Sabbath in such a way are not simply lounging about and twiddling their thumbs. They eat large meals, drink plenty of wine, worship, and fellowship. One rabbi I read about actually said, this is the time for schmoozing. The point is, there's deep joy and great satisfaction. There's a celebration of the Creator that is rooted in the midst of community. I understand that we as Christians rarely celebrate the Sabbath in this way. But in the United States, the majority of us do not have any true Sabbath at all. I'm speaking myself. We may, like Brother Lawrence, be able to find Christ in our work as well as our rest. But I believe in order to learn this, we must first truly stop, cease, worship, and fellowship. I know how short I've come, and I'm preaching myself because I know things need to change in my own life. I'm prone to drowning in activity. So I just ask that you join me in resisting our culture, a culture of nonstop work and distraction. And when we can't cease, because life does happen. In fact, the rule for keeping the Sabbath is you can break it for the sake of life. You can put out a fire in a house to save a life. But get this, you can't put out a fire to save the house. There's always this balance, putting life above things. Let us still, in the midst of things, intentionally create space to fix our eyes on the person of Christ, not the outcomes of prayers, our work, or even our charity. The person of Christ. Now, in our story of Mary and Martha, both were serving Jesus. Let's hear that. Both were serving Jesus. Mary by learning, and Martha by doing. Both were valued. It was the perspective that was skewed. In today's account, Martha started looking more at herself and Mary than at Jesus. But later, when their brother Lazarus dies, it's Martha who runs to Jesus in faith that he can heal. Granted, she thinks he's a little late, but she has faith in his healing. And it's Mary who remains weeping. Let's not pit Mary and Martha against one another. I don't believe Jesus ever did that. Let's learn to sit at Jesus' feet